Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my review of Star Wars Andor Season 1 Episode 7 Announcement. This episode definitely seems to be set apart from the rest of the series in terms of, seems very much to be probably the only actual filler episode. Because it seems to me like it's going to be doing one main thing. It's going to be the connecting between the first two arcs that we're getting, and then what the last two arcs that we're getting, because very much this seems like, hey, bunch of stuff happened, bunch of stuff will happen, we need to get everything caught up and sync back together, so we'll create an episode that's just going to say, this is what's going on, everyone, ready? Not quite like that, but this I think is the example of a true filler, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not filler in the sense of, oh, they just needed to pad the time. No, it's filler in the sense of, we have the main story, but like, we need to make sure, we gotta connect, we got A done, we got B done, but we gotta make sure B and C are connected. So we need a B, maybe we change C to D and we'll throw in a new C. That kind of thing, it's the connecting glue that holds everything together. That's the impression I've gotten this. So, big rebel attack, so what does Empire do? They crack down hard. And that's going to set up what's going to happen in the next episode. Andor, we see he's on the run. We get to see more from our Mantra. Well, he's on the run, but he's not. So essentially, he goes back to Ferrix. There's an Imperial garrison. They're now actual Stormtroopers. And speaking of Stormtroopers, they're on Ferrix. They're on Coruscant now. Those are the only two real... Oh, and that whatever planet was at the end of the episode, I forget its name, but that resort planet, in other words. So... well, actually, those were show troopers, and which is also a pretty neat thing to just call out that show troopers appeared. But essentially, those stormtroopers were equipped for coastal and environments, coastal and I forget the other term, but basically the coastal regions, and islands and all that. So it makes sense actually, but it also makes sense that now that the Empire is cracking down on dissent, it's bringing the stormtroopers out and having them do security. So basically, this is kind of what I saw at the end of the last episode, but this episode really does cement it. The Empire, until this point in time, used probably stormtroopers mainly for, elite missions. They were the shock troops. They went after the storm. They were the ones that were assigned to go after Jedi, to assist the Purge Troopers and Inquisitors. They're the ones who were sent to go after remaining Separatist remnants, Saw Gerrera's partisans. The Stormtroopers were the ones that were doing the main fighting. They were being elite shock troops. But now we're seeing them used as security. And I have a feeling that's why, by the time of the original trilogy, the Stormtroopers are so incompetent. Because they're being used for what they're not supposed to be used for. The Imperial Army is supposed to be doing security. No, they're the ones that are supposed to secure the installations, do security patrols, hold the front line while the Stormtroopers go in and do the actual combat. But what I'm going to guess now is, by bringing those Stormtroopers to do security, what that's going to do is deplete the resources. They'll need more Stormtroopers, which means probably going to have to force a relaxation in training standards and maybe even recruitment standards. I even predicted that an army unit, Imperial Army units, could be converted into Stormtrooper units because they need those troopers, the feel of the Stormtroopers. The Tarkin Doctrine is very much, I think, starting to be used in force. Harsh sentences in order to crack down on dissent. The Empire is cracking down, which is kind of what Lucasfilm wanted. He does say as much. By cracking down, by the Empire now doing a more heavy-handed approach, people are going to get more uncomfortable, more willing to start rebelling. Which makes sense. This show is going to show the birth of the rebellion, so it makes sense that perhaps the Empire needs to be forced to be more heavy-handed too, because that will create more outrage, and outrage much quicker. Some very unique stuff that it brings up. But yeah, we see the ISB basically in overdrive, like, okay, we're cracking down, we're going to take control, we're giving more powers, etc., etc., etc. We also get Gilroy appearing. We knew from A New Hope that he does, and also Rebels, that he does become as the head of the ISB. We see him giving a speech to the ISB saying, now that this is going on, this is what you guys can do, crack down on it. And then, of course, the main ISB character we've been following, and her name slips me, but essentially she uses that for her own benefit by essentially getting the records she's been trying to get that her colleague has been blocking because it's outside of her sector. And so her immediate supervisor was like, good job, actually praised her for doing that, but told her to watch her back. But that's also very much the Imperial mentality, not Imperial mentality, but very much, you know, if you essentially have to watch your back because people will stab you in the back in order to advance their goals. We actually saw this a little bit in the SWTOR game, Star Wars The Old Republic. We do see this in actually real life authoritarian regimes where you can't really trust your colleagues because they'll stab you in back to advance just as you'll stab them in the back. So it's showing, well, she's showing initiative and getting stuff done. It is also a weakness in the system at the same time because that instability means there can't be effective cooperation. Resentment builds when you promote somebody for breaking the rules because they're getting stuff done, but at the same time not promote somebody because they're keeping the rules and getting stuff done. Like, that all breeds in resentment, especially if you do it unevenly. But that's also how you make sure that your subordinates don't rise up and replace you. But that very much fits in with the Sith mentality. I do like seeing how that's creeping into the rest of the Empire that they're really showing it. We also get, Mon Mothma, realizing what Lucen is doing, but also, like, acting essentially shocked, but then, and then later on in another conversation she has with a banker from Chinjula during a party, it's like, reveals that she might be much more supportive of what Lucen is doing than she let on to Lucen, as all part of her essentially playing a double act, and she literally said that she took a lesson from Palpatine, i.e., basically do one thing in public while hiding what you're really doing behind. So essentially she's acting as the annoyance while she's doing something much more nefarious in the background from the Imperial perspective. But I really do kind of like that little contrast, that cloak and dagger stuff, where nobody's being quite truthful with everyone else because they need to gauge how much can I trust this person and what can I trust them with. Quite, cloak and dagger stuff. It'd be very much interesting to see. And it wouldn't surprise me if, later on in the timeline where Mon Mothma does publicly announce a rebellion on that, if Palpatine might have given a chuckle like, I see what she did there, she took a lesson from me. I'm also mad at her for that, but I do see what she was doing. That would be hilarious. Okay, that'd be more of a Lego Star Wars thing to do than non-Lego Star Wars, but still, it would be hilarious. But yeah, that kind of covers most of my thoughts. This episode is really about basically a major shakeup in how the Empire is policing the galaxy. From a maybe still heavy-handed but much more quiet, perhaps actually even more insidious because nobody's really noticing it because it's slow and steady. The Empire is cracking down hard, galaxy-wide, not just where the incident was occurring. And at the same time, I think that's going to encourage more people to join the rebellion or to start rebelling. One thing that we see when Cassian returns to Ferrix is that his adoptive mother sounds like she's pretty much willing to go. Even though Cassian offers to get them both off board, she says she's going to stay, and she does. But it's very much implied that she's going to stop making herself a head like for the local Imperial garrison. Cassian also pays off all the debts he had to all his friends on Ferrix and then leaves. So very interesting there, but also showing some flashbacks during all this. So very much we learned that Clem, the reason why Cassian chose that name was because that was the name of his adoptive father, which makes sense. Who is implied during a republic occupation of Ferrix during the Clone Wars. Later in the war, because it's Phase 2 armor clone troopers. But essentially, some local residents were throwing rocks or snowballs at the clones, and he was trying to diffuse the situation, but by the time the clones turned around, he was the only one standing where those rocks were coming from. So it sounds like he got punished for that and got hanged. Yeah, so definitely showing how the Republic became an empire before it became an empire in name. Kind of reminds me a bit of the Roman Empire when you think about it. But we also get to learn that Cassian's adopted mother never went to that square because it would remind her of all that until after all the stuff that Cassian did, which is kind of interesting. But it's very interesting what they're doing there and how they're building it up. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear in the next episode or two that Cassian's adopted mother is killed by the Empire. I'm just expecting that to happen sooner or later. But yeah, Cassian's in hiding now. He's taking a name. But he still gets arrested because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the Empire, because they'll crack down, it's zero tolerance on any kind of dissent. Doesn't matter how minor that, zero tolerance. It's presumption of guilt. You can't even argue for your innocence. And all punishments have, literally, for essentially being in the wrong place at the wrong time, before the crackdown, his punishment only would have been 6 months. It's 6 years now. So you can kind of see, the rebels, by forcing the Empire to act heavy-handed, is going to create more dissent against the Empire. Which does make sense. A state built off of fear and basically rule of force, it's a house of cards. If you can't maintain the support of the people, it's going to collapse. That's true for any government, but I think especially true for those that rely on the fear and force. I mean, you have no actual popular support. So if people get sick of the force and fear that you're using to keep them in line, you're forcing them to be like, hey, you guys were keeping order before, so we were willing to look away at a few of the more unsavory aspects, but now you're affecting us directly. You're punishing people for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That, I think, is going to help turn the galaxy against the Empire. So it's very interesting to see where Andor is going. I thought this was a very good episode. Yes, was it filler? Probably, but it was the right kind of filler. The filler that connects things together, especially when you have an overarching story. Sometimes you guys take a step back, the main story is going on in the background, but you still need to be like, okay, a bunch of stuff has happened. We kind of need to fill stuff in so people know what's going to happen next. So that's the kind of filler this is. The right kind. The kind that helps build the story. It may not be the main story arc, but it's contributing to all the little arcs. Clearly with that one Espo, whose name I forgot, who's living with his mother. Now he's got a desk job at least, but you can tell he's not happy. But I think it's only a matter of time before he's recruited into the ISB. But we have to wait to see for that. But thank you for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you did, please be sure to like and upvote and share it. And also subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Check out the links down below. And be sure to let me know, what did you think of Star Wars Andor announcement? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.